My husband 36M just gave me 3 for an ultimatum. Quit my side hustle teaching yoga or he's leaving our marriage. I got married a year and a half ago to the most incredible person. I'd just gotten out of a 6-year relationship. We were friends for a few months, and it quickly became every bit of the classic when you know for both of us. Within 3 months, we'd bought our first home, got engaged after 9 months, and then got married almost a year to the day from our engagement with a dream destination wedding in Greece. We've been together now 3 years. It's important to know we are in multicultural marriage. My husband is Hindu Punjabi, emigrated from India over a decade ago, and I'm a white American. Greece was equidistant travel for both of our families, who get along famously and have really embraced our blending of cultures. We have a lot of family support on both sides. When we got married, we were on the same page about what we expected from each other and what we wanted. Our red lines were physical violence and cheating. We agreed everything else was figure-outable. One of those things we agreed on was fitness. Early in our relationship, we worked out together constantly, went on runs, etc. And we talked often about our mutual desire to continue to cultivate a long, healthy life together. A few differences to note. He grew up in a household with very traditional gender roles in India. His father was verbally abusive to his mother, would go days giving her the silent treatment. My husband has been open about how witnessing this affected him growing up. His parents have worked it out over time, but his mom has shared openly about this dynamic with me. His father rarely has to lift a finger at home, but worked very hard to provide for the family, a very traditional Indian culture. My husband has 2 sisters who both take a more modern approach to their relationships, and that seems to be accepted within the family. My parents split responsibilities 50-50 as often as possible. Both worked full-time. They've always been best friends, and I rarely saw them argue. My husband is easily triggered and very reactionary, works on it in his own way but refuses to try individual therapy. Shortly after we got together, we moved to a new state for his job about an hour north of the city where we met, had lots of friends. He worked a mid-shift at the time and wasn't getting home until 1 to 3 a.m. the first year of living in our new state. The hour drive made it harder to see friends regularly, and I was home alone all the time. Integrative nutrition and movement gave me my life back a few years ago after being diagnosed with a chronic illness. So after about a year of living in our new state, I found a local fitness studio to start taking classes to tone up for our wedding and meet some friends. My husband has had on-off issues with marijuana, very all or nothing kind of person, no balance when weed is in the house. So that started to creep back in just before we got married. It's a daily fight for him, and I'm here to help him through it. Every few months, he relapses, goes on a bender, and then realizes it sends him into a deeper depression. Being loved by a supportive partner gave me another level of confidence. I felt like I could pursue just about anything and we'd somehow make it happen. I'd been a fitness instructor in college and had always wanted to pick it back up, so with his late night schedule, I signed up for a yoga teacher training program and started the weekend we returned from our wedding. It was every other weekend intensives and a big-time commitment, but I made a point to try my best to nurture our free time together. I ended up loving teaching yoga, made lifelong friends, and was the first of my cohort to be offered a job right after training at the studio. Teaching at this studio is highly competitive. Usually you have to do a mentorship, but they let me get right on the schedule. I was thrilled. My husband started experiencing pretty significant job stress around this time, and honestly, a really awful boss situation. We've all been there and started showing symptoms of high-functioning depression. In bed for both weekend days, doom scrolling and watching football. Withdrawn from activities that used to make him happy, no desire to spend time with friends, and limited energy to spend time with me. His parents, my parents, and some of our friends noticed the change. Instead of a partnership, he started expressing his desire for me to act more like a stay-at-home wife, dinner on the table every night. House tidy as my main responsibility. I also work a 9 to 5 remote from home and am the breadwinner. So it was hard to have this expectation morph from a shared responsibility to solely mine. All of this was building until we found out I had an aggressive form of precancer and had to see a specialist for treatment in another state, 8-hour round trips every weekend for months. The whole thing seemed to give him purpose again, and confronted with my potential early mortality, we spent our car rides talking about our dreams and life goals. We dreamed up an idea to start a matcha and cold pressed juice camper to have a little side business together on the weekends and started moving forward with that, but as soon as I got the all clear last June, he fell right back into a depressive episode. I tried to plan small activities without putting too much on his plate. Work stress was still at an all-time high, but after a while, he started to resent me for keeping him away from being in bed. I continued with our business plans alone, kept teaching yoga, working my 9 to 5 and holding it down for him at home, but no amount of me would help pull him out of the work-bed depression cycle. In his darker moments, he expressed that he felt like my job teaching yoga was taking away from my ability to be there for him. When I ask for specifics, he likes to tell me I should know and that no matter what I did, I was somehow falling short. At this point, I'd fallen in love with teaching yoga. My classes started waitlisting, helping my students gave me passion and purpose, and I'd finally found real community, which was such a bright spot when there was no effort being put into our partnership at home. Our fights began to escalate, and I found myself on the receiving end of low blows, name-calling, and verbal abuse. I tried so hard to meet him where he was and stay neutral and non-reactive, but you can only be called a bitch so many times without losing it on occasion. This past November, he was promoted and finally had normal work hours. I switched my workout schedule at the studio to mornings so that I could be there for him when he got home at night, with the exception of one night a week. When I got offered a second class weekend spot on the yoga schedule because my first class was doing so well, I wanted to accept it immediately but made a point to ask him first. He said he was okay with it but hated the idea. Over the past year of teaching, it's been hard seeing instructor friends' husbands show up for them. Something about this gig my husband just hates, and I wish he could just be supportive and proud. But anytime I spend at the yoga studio max 3 hours weekly, he's expressed it takes away from him somehow. A girlfriend who he knows well and I thought likes as a human from the yoga studio came over Monday night to do a little bit of work on a series we're doing together. I cooked dinner for us all, made sure my husband had what he needed, and after my friend left, I got in bed and gave him a hug, only to be met by "get the fuck away from me," followed by 48 hours of the silent treatment, despite my pleading to try to have a conversation. Last night, he came to me and said, "It's yoga or it's me. You have until Sunday to quit your teaching job or I'm leaving our marriage," and I'm just gutted. I've tried to offer a compromise and even offered to take a short leave of absence from teaching, but he refuses to speak to me until I make my decision on Sunday, and apparently, it's all or nothing. Movement has saved my mental health. I found so much purpose through teaching. Having a student approach me to tell me they sleep better on nights they take in one of my classes, or they feel more relaxed or inspired in any way, just absolutely lights me up. I finally feel seen standing up there, and I've somehow gotten good at it. I love being of service to other people. Yoga has transformed my mental health so much that I stepped away from therapy in 2023. But out of desperation, I reached out to my former psychologist for an emergency session this morning, who told me to hold the line and not quit just because he's threatening to leave. Hearing her say the hardest thing you will ever do is say no and then watch what he does next has ripped me to my core. I still love this man and desperately want to make it work, even though I know if I were to hear this story from a friend or stranger, they'd tell me to run. I finally told my parents what's been going on. They're supportive. I quietly reached out to his sister, who reassured me that we are family and they'd knock some sense into him. But am I missing something here? The ultimatum seems like it's about something so much deeper than my yoga job, but it's ripping me apart that the person I love wants me to quit something I've become so passionate about. Not sure what my next move is, but I'd love to hear any takes from fellow internet stranger friends.